Good afternoon and welcome to the Dry Creek Joint Elementary School Board meeting on this date, June 11th, 2026. The record will reflect that all board members, with the exception of Board Member Ryan Haynes, are present. Do we have any comments for closed session items? Awesome. Hearing none, we will adjourn into closed session.
Actually,
Okay, welcome back to the June 11th board meeting of the Dry Creek Joint Elementary School District. The record still reflects that all board members are present with the exception of board member Brian Haynes. If you will all join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So we have some reports from closed session. Matter of item 3.7, board voted 4-0 to approve. In the matter of 3.8, the Board of Trustees voted 4-0 to deny the interdistrict appeal of student number 20258. In the matter of item 3.9, Board of Trustees voted 4-0 to deny the interdistrict appeal of student number 20259. In the matter of item 3.10, the Board of Trustees voted 4-0 to deny the interdistrict appeal of student number 2025-10. And in the matter of item 3.11, the Board of Trustees voted 4-0 to deny the interdistrict appeal of student number 2025-11. And with that, we will move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment today?
We do not.
I'm hearing none. So we shall move on to comments and reports from the leadership and board members. Who's going first today? Hi, Sarah.
Hi, I don't have anything tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening. I know we're gonna have some lengthy reports from my colleagues on either side of me, so I will abstain from my report tonight and have a report for the board at the next board meeting.
Okay.
I'm gonna save everything I have for a couple of presentations.
Wow, this is going by fast. Tracy.
I always have something to say. So this month I was able to go with Christina and Cliff to the PCOE budget workshop presentation, and that was helpful to get a heads up or a glance at what was going to happen. I also was honored to participate in the flag celebration at Sun City for Memorial Day, honoring our veterans, participating in my community. I attended the CSBA policy packet webinar, so that helped my brain kind of get ready for board policy updates and things like that. The Dry Creek's retirement celebration was emotional for me because many of the teachers that were being recognized were teachers that I remember coming to Dry Creek on their very first year working for Dry Creek. And so to see them retire, and not only that, to see them at the retirement celebration with children that they didn't even have when I hired, who were grown up, you know, so to see the Devine family and to see the Parker family and to see the Geyer family and the Lee family with these children that I remember as, you know, preschoolers and infants, grown-ups flying across the state to see their parents retire was very emotional, and I'm just very proud of our staff and wish them well for their retirement. I had my meetings with our superintendent and our coach, and I always enjoy those. And then three highlights were attending the Antelope Crossing and Silverado promotions, just to see the families engaged with student achievement was wonderful. I love the smaller celebrations. It reminded me of when we were on multi-track year-round with 900 students at Quail Glen, and we had to go to single track, and so we divided the school into smaller groups, stars and stripes. And so to have two promotions was dividing it into a smaller and more intimate group. So thank you to the principals who led those promotion ceremonies. They were individualized, they were very well planned, and the community just responded well. And then I also got to circle back around to the students that John and I met with, who had, they wanted to look at the food that was being served in the cafeteria. And so they did a service learning presentation. And so I went to 2 classrooms that presented their service learning projects. And they were everything from, we'd like to have some new food in the cafeteria, to how can we, you know, change the library books in the library so that they're easier to check out, or PE programs. So it's always engaging to see students participate in their community service. So that was it for the month. Thank you for letting me report.
pleasure to attend the Creekview Ranch promotion ceremony last week. That's the first time I had a chance to go to Creekview Ranches. It was a nice, very, very sunny day, but
That's code word for it was hot.
yeah, just a little. So bonus points for a pop-up tent next time. But it was really encouraging to see so many young people just doing really well. The commendations, the performances, the speeches there and at Silverado's promotion ceremony. You see these burgeoning future adults, and it's just a huge blessing and an encouragement to see them speaking in public, singing, taking part in this tremendous activity, and so excited to attend high school. At least that's how they presented. Also had a wonderful opportunity to attend the Quail Glen end of the year barbecue. Talk to some parents across the district, sites that I visited. Just very happy with their school sites. Huge commendation to the site administrators and your teachers, your staff that keep the schools clean, sites safe, your yard duties, and just very impressed by a lot of the progress that was made over the years. So you guys earned your summer break. All your efforts are appreciated, and love the results I saw.
I sadly had to miss the promotion ceremonies this week, but I have a few items I'd like to talk about, but I decided I think I'll mention them next Tuesday at the Tuesday meeting, so I'll defer to Jean to
Oh.
continue on.
I will allow Cliff to continue on. He's next in line.
All right, I'll be brief. I also attended a couple of the promotions. 3 of them are all at the same time, so we couldn't be everywhere all at once, but we divided and conquered, and I just really appreciated how every school had a celebratory yet dignified promotion. And for our district, this is the culmination of their, of our students' experiences. So we're sending them off to high school. So this, for some districts that are unified, promotion is, kind of another step in the process. For us, this is us sending off our final product. So I thought both the events that I attended were very well done, very respectful, and the smaller intimate setting was great. I don't know what it was like before, but just trying to imagine all those people crammed into that spot, like into the quads, was a little different. And we were under an umbrella at the other 2, so I'll just put a shout out for that one. No, I heard the Creekview one, you're just baking in the sun, so. It could have been worse though. It's only 100 degrees today, so those were, I think there was in the 80s, so it wasn't too bad, but it's been worse in other years. And then just reiterating what Tracy said, we had a great event, thanks to Renee and her group and our HR folks for putting on the retiree event. So we had 13 retirees this year. Just a great event. We're honoring and celebrating the long careers of these people who've given so much of their time and effort to all of our students and our community and our schools. So just our little token of appreciation, but it was great to see just how well, they were received and honored and really seemed to like it. We did have one accident. One of the awards was unfortunately dropped to the ground by the husband of one of the retirees. So he's in the doghouse, but we are getting a replacement for her. So I'm not gonna name names, but, and then the last thing, we're gonna be turning our attention this next year to celebrating our 150th year as a district. So there's been work that's been going on behind the scenes in preparation. This past week, the banners and signs. So a lot of the light posts out here, we have old fading signs from past eras. So we're gonna replace those with new ones celebrating our 150 years, and you'll see stuff out at sites. So they came in this week. Renee and Michelle were checking them out. Michelle did a great job putting those together and combining a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new. So you'll see all the photos that have students are our students. either from the past or current, so it's gonna look really good at all of our sites, so that's something we're looking forward to kickstarting and moving into next year. And just the last thing I'll say is just, wanted to thank everyone for, my first year here. It was a year ago tomorrow that I was here getting approved, so just can't believe it's been a year. I wanted to thank all of my staff, my executive leadership team, all of our site and district staff. There's a lot of work that goes on in the background that not everyone sees. And we're just, if I could say anything to the community, it would be that your students are in great hands. We've got great people, great dedicated staff, and it's a pleasure to work with them and be part of it. So that's my report.
Thank you. It has been a great year. Doesn't really feel like a year has gone by since you joined us. I think you've been such a great fit. It just feels like you've always been here, kind of just always been part of that team. I will also say that I did enjoy Creekview's graduation, and I was very happy I had a hat with me. Sorry to the friend next to me who did not. And also I am looking forward to all the changes for the celebration of the 150th. That's gonna be really neat to see. So looking forward to that. And also celebrating 250 years for our country. So lots of great things happening. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. I'm assuming everyone has looked at it. Does anyone have anything to say or pull or observe? And if not,
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
we have a motion by Board Member Walker, a second by Board Member Fensky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so motion carries 4-0. And now we are moving on to public hearing. First one is 7.1 on the Local Control Accountability Plan, also known as LCAP.
Doesn't she open and close it up?
And just like that,
No,
out
just,
of the
yeah,
presentation.
no, just, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Annually, as you all are aware, we work throughout the school year to prepare our local control accountability plan, meeting with several different teams and analyzing data and a needs assessment. And tonight we're here for our public hearing. So a little,
Click the circle.
oh. I don't know, it's like, it was like buzzing in my head.
Mine won't do it for a year.
You can just click it forward.
Okay.
That's fine. So to begin with a little bit of background, that we've shared before, but for those who aren't aware, in 2013, the local control funding formula was signed into law. And along with that came the new accountability system, which was to provide resources more equitably to students and to provide flexibility for us at a district level to address the needs of our students rather than just be served with categorical programs that had a lot of specific stipulations. And that we were required to then write an LEA plan or a local educational agency plan, identifying how to support the identified students. So I kind of just explained that, but the LEAs were to receive funding then based on a base grant on average daily attendance with grade span adjustments, and then the part where the LCAP comes into play is the additional apportionments, which are supplemental funds and or concentration grant funds. We are a district who does not receive the concentration grant funds, but do receive supplemental funds. Those funds are allotted to the district based on our unduplicated count, which are students that fall into our low income English learner or foster youth and homeless categories. And our current unduplicated count is around 51%. It fluctuates a tad here and there. The background for the LCAP these are the areas that the LCAP covers: basic resources, state standard implementation, and course access. For pupil outcomes, it's pupil achievement and other student outcomes. Engagement is in regard to parent involvement and engagement, pupil engagement, and then school climate. During the course of the year, so this school year, 25-26, the LCAP is monitored all year long, starting in the fall. And then we start presenting the mid-year update in February. It needs to be completed by the end of February. And we engage with our educational partners, starting really sometimes in December, but generally January. And we provide access to give us input and review goals and review the mid-year update so that we can start drafting the LCAP for the coming school year. With final approval coming in June here at the district level, and then it's sent off to the county for final county approval, which generally happens in July, August-ish. And then it will be placed on both the dashboard and our school district website. The LCAP has many sections. It starts with a budget overview for parents, which was changed several years ago to be more accessible and easier for parents to understand how the funding works and where it's going. It has a plan summary, which has general information, reflections on the current annual performance, and then the information about engaging all of our educational partners. It has 4 goals, which is a separate section, and then the increased or improved services section describes how we are using the funding to increase services for the identified students, and then the expenditure tables again line out the budget and the funding sources. So I'm going to turn it over to my partner here. We work very closely together on all of this all year long.
All year long. Okay, so the parent overview piece, this is gonna look familiar to what you're gonna see in a few minutes in the budget presentation, so kind of jumps ahead onto what you're gonna see. But this gives a brief overview, a high-level overview of what the 26-27 revenues look like, showing that our biggest piece of our revenue is the LCFF funding. That's the pie chart on the left. It breaks it into the different pieces of our LCFF, our state revenues, federal and local. Again, like you'll see in our budget presentation, so 7.3 million of that on the right-hand pie chart. It breaks out our supplemental funding, which is the specific to those targeted students that Sarah was just talking about, that we really focus on in the LCAP. Go ahead and go to the next one. Oh. So on this one, this graph shows you the expenditures that are related to the LCAP. So on the left-hand side are budgeted general fund expenditures of $107 million. That will look a little bit different than what you're gonna see in the budget because this one was finished just before we made some final adjustments. So it'll look just a little bit different. And then in the LCAP, you'll see $64 million, 64.5 is what's in the LCAP. And so that's the portion that we actually relate to some of the action items. And the difference are things that just don't tie specifically to action items. So above and beyond the pieces that are supplemental funded, we do have general fund dollars that we still tie to those different action items in the LCAP, even though they're not supplemental funded. And so that's just the difference between those two. And then the next one, this takes you back to the current year, 25-26, and just shows you that out of the supplemental funds, we originally had budgeted $7.5 million, and our estimated projected to spend is 7.4, leaving about $98,000 that we did not spend, which is only approximately 1.2% of that budget. Last year, the carryover was 3.9% unspent, so it's considerably less than the year before. And that's just basically due to some vacancy savings that we saw for some positions that weren't filled, some site unspent funds, some software that came in a little bit less than we originally budgeted for, those, fluctuations. And that will all be carried over and put into the LCAP into this year's, into 26, 27. So it'll all just get rolled back into the pot and spent into the next year. So it's pretty normal, and that's actually a pretty low amount. So it had no impact on the services being delivered to students. It didn't change anything for us.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
The proposed goals are the same. Remember, the LCAP is a 3-year plan, so generally the goals don't change in them unless there's some significantly changing data or need to do that. So we'll continue on with the 4 goals we've had for the last couple of years. The first being our academic goal for English language arts and math and our EL students with developing proficiency in the English language. Our safe and orderly schools with positive engagement and supportive climate. Our fostering meaningful parent and community engagement. And then number 4 is more of a maintenance type goal with items that are either program maintenance or compliance with state specific rules and guidelines. I won't read through all of these specifically in the interest of time, but in goal 1, you can see action items 1 through 8 are all aligned with academic achievement. Goal 1.9 is what Christy was referring to just now with the general fund dollars that are aligned with the goal items. In each of the goals, you'll see that as the last item, action item in the goal. So those are items that are supported by general fund, but not considered supplemental funds and are not contributing. Goal 2, you can see there that the actions there are all based around student engagement, and that includes attendance and their ability to participate at school in a positive manner. Some of the discipline and or supportive measures are also aligned in there. And then goal 2.5 is the non-supplemental dollars. Goal 3 aligned with parent and community engagement. So each of those action items have specific interest areas that support engaging our families at a high level. And goal 4 is our instructional materials. This is that maintenance goal, class size targets, combination classes, and the safe and orderly schools includes our FIT tool scores, which are required annually along with the instructional materials for our Williams. And 4 is again the item that Christy spoke about. So I'm not gonna read all this either, but we thought it was important that you see how much goes into engaging our educational partners. So starting back in November, we start engaging our district English Language Advisory Committee along with our LCAP PAC. Here we're gonna go with the acronym, so get ready. I'm gonna be saying, SST and IB, no. But our LCAP PAC is the advisory committee for the LCAP, and then we also annually have to engage our Title I parents for a meeting. And so in the interest of time and gathering the families that all need to be connected for these purposes, in November we hold one general meeting for all 3 of those groups to start the year out and the engagement piece. And then throughout the school year up through May, we hold meetings to review data, go over goals, look at the mid-year update. We do the school parent engagement, local indicator 3 items with the parents there where they give us feedback on how well we're engaging them and things we can do to help them. And because we want families to have that opportunity, or school site members to give feedback and engage with us, it's not required, but for, I would say, like the last 6 years-ish. We have asked, and graciously, they've done it for us, but we've asked our principals to also go through the same process we do with the groups at the district level, with their site council, their site ELAC, and their staff, in order to make sure we're reaching enough people to get input, which is really important to us. And I always say, you know, we get more input doing that and more purposeful input from the sites rather than sometimes families that may be intimidated to come to the district level meeting or, but when they're invited to their site, they're more likely to go. And so we started that because we felt like we were getting more input and more purposeful input. So thank you to the principals, because at the beginning of the year, I give them a long list of to-dos for their SIPSA and for the LCAP, and they graciously do all of them, and I appreciate it. So anyway, those are the processes we go through. We also interact and engage with our Placer County SELPA. We interact with our continuous improvement and fiscal services connections at the county, and they do like a review before we bring it here tonight for the hearing as kind of a pre-approval, or just to make sure that they're good with all of the things that we have and we've met all the compliance requirements. So that's been completed and we got the thumbs up to bring it tonight. You can go ahead, Sarah. And then annually we collect information in a way that we can then kind of consolidate it and come up with themes. And this is some of the feedback that we received this year regarding some of the action items. So typically, year to year, you're going to see the same themes that come up with all the support systems that our engagement partners want us to continue. We didn't have anyone say don't continue any of these actions. Rather, usually the input is, and has been for several years, please do more of what we have in there. Typically around more counselors, more EL teachers, lower class size, more support for our English learner families, more parent engagement opportunities, and those types of things. So I was not surprised to see the themes that came out again this year. Changes to the LCAP this year, there weren't any substantive changes. In Goal 1, the metrics for metric 1H have been modified as we updated some of the district assessments for K2 literacy, and so those have been modified in the metrics section of Goal 1 to reflect those, and that needs to be noted in the LCAP and was noted as a change for the coming year. Typically, if you make a change to anything in the LCAP, you have to note it in the revision section. For Goal 3, the same thing. We had a metric in Goal 3, 3C metric, and that was to monitor the number of adults that attended the adult English classes through Roseville Adult School. We were holding them on 2 of our campuses, but because of technological constraints and issues with the platform that they needed and all the things, we don't hold them on our campuses this year, and so we changed that metric just to reflect the number of district and site parent engagement or community engagement events that we were holding for our parents and community members. And the actual LCAP document was in the action item, the item uploaded there, and it's quite lengthy. So hopefully you got a chance to go through the 114 pages. And I just want to thank the team, besides the principals, but my team and my office, we all kind of have a little part in it. Everyone kind of has their hand in it because of the programs that they serve. And so they frequently have to participate in the data analysis and the needs assessment, and then, you know, making sure that we're addressing that through the goals and actions. So thank you to everyone that was part of that. Even Brian has to be part of the LCAP, which he loves when I send the email.
Just Mike's face up.
So it's really a team effort.
All right.
And then if there's nothing tonight, we have to hold a public hearing Oh, I forgot to mention at the beginning, along with the public hearing, we always post the LCAP on our website for the week before with a commentary form, and we did not receive any comments or questions tonight, for tonight.
Okay, so. This is the time for the public hearing on the 24-27 LCAP. So the public hearing is now open. Do we have any comments? Okay, with no comments, the public hearing on the LCAP is closed. We'll move on to the public hearing for the 26-27 budget.
And thanks for your work on that, Sarah.
Well, everybody, yes, thank you.
Okay. See if it works this time.
Try again.
It depends on where my
working.
cursor is, so that's my fault.
Oh, okay. Okay, we're gonna jump right in. For the 26-27 proposed budget, our quick little agenda, oh, I'm not turned on. Our quick agenda, we're gonna go quickly through this, the annual budget process, quick overview of the legal requirements. I'm gonna touch on the state update since we didn't get to do a May revise, and then go through our budget assumptions, talk about ADA and enrollment, and budget summary, do multi-years, and then a little fiscal outlook, next steps, and then we'll move into the public hearing. Okay, so the annual budget cycle, if you'll remember back to January, was the governor's proposed budget. And he had all those ideas and things in there that were just proposals. And then in March, I brought you second interim, where we included a couple of things that we thought might be a little more for sure, but not very many of them. And then May came the May revise, and those are still just proposals at that, at this time, and the legislature still needs to go through that process. They're in the middle of negotiations and back and forth, and they're not in agreement on a lot of things, including some things that we're glad they're not in agreement with. So at this time, we're not including everything still. So now we're in June at that LCAP and budget adoption process. And then in July, when they do their actual enacted state budget, we'll start updating, and then we'll come back to you in August with an update. So the legal requirements, which is the same for the LCAP, it's a two-step process. We have the public hearing meeting, which is this one, and then followed up by the public adoption, which will be on Tuesday. And during this time, we're required to give you the estimated actuals, which is what we're projecting to spend for the current year, and then the budget year, which is 26-27, and then the 2 consecutive years after that, or 2 subsequent years, which we call our NYP. And that has to include our anticipated revenues, expenditures, and our ending balances for those years. Okay, so a quick state update. I will not read all of this to you, I promise. So we still are dealing with the uncertainties of the state budget. The state is still relying very heavily on some continued economic growth that we're not so sure is gonna happen. It's heavily reliant on technology and some personal income tax growth that has happened that, is not sustainable necessarily, so we're a little worried about that. And the fact that there's a structural deficit still sitting out there, even though we've had this influx of revenue growth. And so that's, again, another thing to be concerned about. And even with that, despite those revenue higher projections, which is wonderful, the governor is still proposing to underfund our Prop 98, which is our major funding source for California schools. 40 cents of every dollar through Prop 98 is how a school district is funded, and although he's taken down the amount he's trying to withhold from us, he still has a withholding on there. So, and the legislature does not agree with him. So we're really hoping that that fight goes on a little bit longer and they do something about that. So we're gonna continue to watch that, but it's still out there. But there's positive that additional revenue above his original projection does mean that there's more money coming our way. So some of the highlights out of there is the 2.87 COLA. And I've noted some of these with the asterisks of things we're not including in our budget. So I will kind of point out the things we are including. So the 2.87% COLA we are including in the 26-27 budget. You may hear people talk about this super cola, which adding 1.44 is not really making it a super cola in my book. That number is, again, a guesstimate from people. We're hearing all kinds of different numbers. They're also saying there's strings attached to it, like the pregnancy leave law that they were trying to pass, so we're not including any of that in this budget. The Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, we're due 2 more payments. He's proposing to expedite that second one, give us 2 next year. That was already in the original, so we are keeping that one in the budget. A little bit more money for ELOP, which would be great, but we're not including that. Additional money for our literacy coaches and reading specialist program. We're not including it this time, but it will be wonderful to get that, and it would extend it through June of 31. They really want to enhance that program and let folks continue what they're doing, reading in that literacy piece. They're seeing that that's a piece we need to really work on, and that it's really working for people. The long one-time funding source that has no good acronym. I think second interim I said it was around 3 million. Now they're estimating it could be up to 5, depending on what this one-time fund looks like. We are not putting that in this budget because, again, we have no idea. The estimates are so far all over the place, and depending on what they do with everything else, they could start dwindling that away to pay for that super cola or the pregnancy leave or the this, that, and the other. So we're not touching it, but we know it's coming. Special Ed's getting its own slide tonight because this is kind of historic for California. In January, the proposal was to increase the base by $999. Now the proposal is up to $1,340 per ADA, which is amazing. I think everybody across California has been waiting for special ed base funding to increase because the needs are increasing, the costs are increasing. We're not including $1,340 at this point, although I don't think that anybody is gonna push back and say, don't fund special ed. But to be safe, we are gonna include the $999 for right now. The $1,340 would be about $2 million more for Dry Creek. So we're gonna keep an eye on that, and as soon as they say yes to that, we will put it in the budget. And so so statewide, special ed costs are increasing all over. It's not just Dry Creek. Special ed enrollment is increasing across the state, not just Dry Creek. But statewide enrollment is decreasing. And part of the myth for folks is that special ed funding is based on special ed enrollment, and it is not. It is based on your district's enrollment. So whereas we think that special ed enrollment is growing, so our income should be growing, it's not. It's based on our district-wide. So our special ed funding is actually decreasing while our sped count is growing. And so this increase in funding would come in the best time for us because we're all seeing that same problem as the kids are coming and the expenses are coming higher and the cost and the services and all of that is going up. So we really do need this boost of funding. Also PCOE, as our SELPA has cut back on a few things, and they're passing through an additional, over 3 years, almost, I wanna say almost $4 million across the county back into the special ed pool for us. So over the next 3 years, we're gonna see some savings coming back, and I wanna say it's roughly around $600,000 for us. It'll fall back out in a couple of years, but by then we'll see where we are. So that was great news that we just got this last month as well. Okay, so some key assumptions that we're using for this 3 years. We still are showing our decrease in our enrollment. It's shifted just a little bit. And just looking at things, Jim and I were looking at it this morning. We're actually within 40 of that number for our 26-27 school year right now. So we're pretty excited about that. But we are still showing that decrease. Then you can see our FTE decrease is there as well, which if you remember from before, it was like, I think we were showing a 9 FTE decrease. So that, and then we also split it out this time, certificated versus classified, and these are just due to enrollment. These are more classroom based. And the reason we split this out this time is because while we're seeing a general ed decrease, we're seeing an increase in special ed teachers. And so those classified increases are related to special ed. And so we wanted to be very clear that that's why we're seeing that fluctuation, because when I netted them together, it looked like we were just adding FTEs and that just didn't look right. So when we open a special ed classroom, those come with aides, and some of these students have one-on-one aides, and then just in general, they need aides in those classrooms. And so that's what that shift is. But then you do see that those decreases are a little bit smaller in those out years than what they were originally projected to be. But we do still have those larger 7th and 8th grade classes exiting the system compared to what we're seeing in TK and K. For instance, we have, well, let me just get to my next slide.
Hey Chrissy,
Yeah.
just a real quick comment.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see the over 500, well, let me do the math here, close to 500 decrease in enrollment between now, this year, and the year 2028 and 2029.
Yep, I'm gonna show you here on this next one.
Okay, good, thank you. Oh, I see enrollment here, okay.
Yep.
We can talk about that.
Yep, we're gonna
all
talk
the new
about
development around here just kind
I
of
know.
surprises me,
And
so.
there is some of that in here, and again, as soon as we start to see some of that actually happening, we'll start to adjust, but right now, we've seen some from the Lennar homes, the only ones that are actually built so far, and it hasn't really changed us any. Like I said, we're within 40 of this number right now, but, and they're 3/4 of the way sold already, so, and they're the only ones that are projected to actually be built, so we don't know yet what's gonna happen, but there is some growth from those developments in here. But here's what we're looking at is, for instance, last year's 8th graders were 829 that left, and then the kinders that we got in this year were only 528. So we had a difference of 308 kids. So even if we got out of that 400 houses that they're gonna build, even if we had half of those had kids in them, it's only 200. So we're still would be down over 100. So, and we can't guarantee that we're gonna get 200 kids out of those 400 homes. Right? Like we haven't seen that in the past, and so we can't guarantee that. So we built in, I think I've got 50 or 60 in their first half and 50 or 60 in their second half, just to be safe, and then if we start to see them, we'll start adding. And then if we start to hear timelines on the other developments, we can start adding, but right now we don't have a timeline on those yet. So right now it's still kind of in that modest area, but our 8th through, I think, 5th grade right now are still pretty large compared to what our other grades are. And so we just haven't hit that tipping ground of we're back to the smaller sizes yet.
Well, that's just that's one of the very important metrics of this whole thing, you know, and it just, what I'm hearing is that a lot of these homes being developed around here aren't conducive to young families or young, people starting a family as far as the cost. But anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, and John,
we're hoping that changes.
one of the things that we're actually seeing, that we've been experiencing with the homes that have been built in this area is we're experiencing about a 0.1 to 0.2 student generation rate, which means for every 5 houses being built, we're seeing maybe 1 student. Because the nature of the homes, the expense of the homes, they tend to be move-up homes, they tend to be homes with older kids, older than elementary age. So that's been our experience, and so until that shifts, that generation rate drives the projections for the development.
Is that 0.2 number, is that typical for Placer County, like for the town of Lincoln? I mean, is that neighboring districts, are they about 0.22, or is it just?
Well, it's really not typical historically for the district. For the district, we've been up as high as 3/4, like 0.75 per home, back in the heyday of Roseville being built out and whatnot. But it's just our experience lately with lower birth rates, higher priced homes, especially in this area. That's our forecast. Our forecast is anywhere from 0.1 to 0.2. And as Chrissy said, if we see something different starting to happen, we'll adjust our forecast.
And so I wonder, because thinking 20 years in the future, a lot of people aren't gonna be moving, they might be staying here, they'll be retiring here, for example.
And they won't have any kids.
And we'll see the continued decline in
Yeah.
enrollment.
Right, and that's what we've seen in the aging of some of our communities that are completely built out, right?
Or if they're coming in with 7th and 8th graders and then they're gone, they're out into the next, they're out.
And there's no, I mean, just not to get off track a little
Yeah.
bit, but our boundaries are, the Dry Creek boundary can't take some of that new West Roseville housing
Yeah.
into our district or anything like that. Okay, just thought.
No, but I mean, we do see some more on the horizon, we just don't know when they're gonna actually build, so.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'll just add, these are obviously very conservative projections. If we see these builds coming in and more kids coming in, that'll affect our future projections.
Absolutely.
We projected declining enrollment this year, which we did experience. We're up, so we're down from last year overall, but we're higher than what we had projected, so it wasn't as far as a drop.
Right.
And that could happen as well, but we have to base our budget and our money off of, you know, what we think is gonna happen as best as
Sure,
possible. We can't over project and then have to cut, so.
Yeah, I'm thinking long-term, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
how things are gonna look. It might be interesting to look at.
I really appreciated, I think it was last year, that Jim did give us a facilities review or a facilities update, and that did have some projections for 10 years, and it might be helpful for the community and for the board to see that again next year.
Oh, definitely,
Updates to
normally
that.
I give you an annual update. I planned on doing it in the spring, that didn't happen. So I'll plan on giving a facility update in the fall.
Yeah, because those are always just so fascinating to me to see how the projections are and the trends and everything, so.
Yeah,
That would be great, Jim,
Yeah.
thank you so
I
much.
think it'd be real important too for, you know,
Yeah, when we were looking at this, we looked back and the declining enrollment has been in the projections for probably the last 5 years, but we actually been started last year, which didn't happen until this year. We've actually bumped it up a little bit, so it wasn't quite as deep of a decline, so these are actually higher numbers than what you had been seeing, so we're starting to alter, as we've seen some less of a decline, so we'll keep adjusting as we go. This one I won't spend too much time on, I just kind of wanted to demonstrate, again, the difference of what's happening to our funding. You know, as enrollment is decreasing, our ADA and our funding is going down as well. We are lucky enough the state has changed to having options, and so we are now that we have this declining enrollment, which is new for this district. This is the first year that this district has seen declining enrollment, so we used to be funded at our current year ADA, and now we're being funded on a 3-year prior average. And so as our enrollment goes down and our ADA goes down, our funded ADA is also going down. We are being slightly shielded from our actual ADA decline because of this 3-year average, but it is catching up to us, and it's gonna continue to catch up to us. So we're getting the benefit of those good years, but as those good years disappear, it's catching up to us and it's gonna catch up fast. So as you can see out in 2029, we're kind of like plummeting out there. So if those houses build and those kids really do show up, that would be fantastic. So I just kind of wanted to show, you know, in a different way of looking at it versus not just plain old numbers, but if we can get our ADA rate up back to where we used to be, that would be super helpful. Figure out how to get those kids back to school.
So I just wanna clarify, so what I hear you saying basically is we're projected to lose enrollment due to a whole host of factors. And as a result of that, we're looking at making meaningful adjustments to our expenditures.
Yep.
Just gonna leave this alone, projected into the next 10 years or so. And as if the situation changes, we can make adjustments up, but it's easier to cut now and then spend more later when the funds come than try to scramble to save money later.
Correct, it's better to plan for it now.
And
Assuming to make those adjustments than to.
Fully agree, and I'm just curious, as an aside, there was that multi-family project that they had proposed in this area that the community soundly rejected, but for, you know, multitude of reasons. Just hypothetically speaking, I'm just curious in your expertise, do you feel that the drawbacks would have offset the benefits? Because with multifamily units tend to come more kids, right? So but also more infrastructure issues. So this might be a question for you and Jim, but I don't know, what's brief assessment?
I mean, you would definitely have got more kids.
Yeah, if you remember, the district did send a letter to the county, actually in opposition of the rezone in this area. And it was primarily for safety and congestion reasons, because we just feel that our roadways, and you see what happens here every day on Cocriolo, and then now even on PFE and Vineyard. We just didn't feel that we had the infrastructure and that it would be unsafe actually for students traveling to and from school. So that was our opposition. So we felt at that time that the benefit of having more students didn't outweigh the safety issues.
We don't want to put a price tag on safety.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move over to the budget summary. So this is just a different way of looking at the chart you just saw in our LCAP presentation. Again, just showing that the largest piece of our pie is our LCFF funding with $82 million. And then our state revenues coming in around 14 million. Our expenditures is where it's just a little bit different. We're at $108 million versus the 107 you saw over there in the LCAP. And I just wanted to be reflective of the fact that these expenditures, if you look at our certificated, classified, and benefits, these do include those tentative agreements that we talked about earlier that will be coming to you on the 16th. We thought it would be very important to show the impact of those on this 3-year budget so that you could see what those look like and how they affect the budget, that they're in there so that you can see them. And then our salaries and benefits do take up about 8% of that pie, which is what they should take up because we are primarily people. And then you have your operating expenses in there. And we're gonna talk a little bit, I'm gonna go through pretty quick because we're gonna talk about it in the multi-year so you can kind of see all of the years together. And then general fund summary. So on this slide, I'm just kind of showing you the unrestricted column is in column 1. Column 2 is your restricted column, and then in column 3 is the combined. I do like to break them out just because that restricted column in the middle, that column, well, I guess it's really column 3, is more of our grants, those things that have strings attached to them coming from the state and the federal and, you know, donations and things like that, versus column 2 is our unrestricted dollars.
This is cut off too.
Is it cut off?
On ours it is, but
Oh.
it's okay, we can see it.
Yeah, we noticed that today, so we fixed it, sorry about that, and I didn't realize it did on the PDF copy too. So if you start at the top of column 3, and you see that 56.6 million is our estimated beginning fund balance for 26-27. And then you have your revenue and expenses that you just saw in the pie charts. And then if you go to the very bottom, you see our ending balance of almost 55.3 is what our ending fund balance is for 26-27. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna jump you to the next slide. So of that ending fund balance that you just saw, again, unrestricted and restricted, and we're gonna go to that last column. Of that $55 million, we have our non-spendables, we have our restricted dollars, which again are those grants, and then we have our committed dollars, we have our assigned and our economic reserves, which is that required 3%, and then we have our unassigned fund balance of almost $2.6 million. So this year, starting 26-27, the 10% reserve cap is in effect because of the way the state budget is, so we have committed additional dollars, which we're gonna go through in just a minute. And so that unrestricted, or the unassigned is kind of that what's left. So of that committed, keep that, and what is that columns, that row C, that $29.9 million. This is how we break that out. So of these committed funds, these are the part that we have to explain that are above our 3% required. And as you've heard a million times, I think, that, you know, every agency out there, including our county, really pushes that you stay above a 3%. especially for a district of our size, because there's all kinds of unanticipated things that can happen and circumstances, and that a 3% reserve is never enough. It only lasts for a week or two for us. That does not protect us, and so the additional reserves are always necessary. This helps us with financial flexibility to absorb any of those unanticipated situations. And so this consists of our 1% board required reserve, the 2% that we've seen before for the cash flow fluctuations. And then some of the key pieces in there are instructional material funds of $9.7 million. That's a little bit higher than it was before, and that's because 25-26, we had some dollars set aside for the adoption that just passed. Those materials won't be coming in until after July 1, and so we put that back into the committed and put it back into the budget for next year. Then we also have what you've seen before for our declining enrollment and workforce stability is kind of how I summarized it on this chart. So we set aside some funds to help us mitigate those shifts and let us adjust to those adjustments. What gives us time to adjust for the declining enrollment and shifts that we need to make. It safeguards us there in case something dramatically happens. We have some facility and infrastructure dollars in there, $4.2 million. So we've also been working on some vehicle replacement plans. There's technology replacement plans in there. There's money set aside to help with creek views, expansion, in case we don't have enough for developer fees. So we've just got some major pieces sitting in there for things that we know are coming down the road. That we've upped our furniture and equipment. We also know that several of our schools' furniture is very original and needs to be replaced. And so we don't want to be in that place where we've expended everything and all of a sudden we have all of these major expenses coming, so we're trying to plan for them as we go. So we're putting some aside. We've looked at what some of those big ticket items are, and so we're planning for the next, I'd say probably eight years or so. Multi-year projections, again, looking at, these are required by law, and so we want to plan for the future. So whatever our decisions are today, and they have a great impact on tomorrow. Okay, so here's where all these parts and pieces come together. So we're required to give you 25-26, which is our current year, and then in column 3 is 26-27, your budget year, and then you got the two next years. So just for the mechanics, if you start on row A, gives you the beginning fund balance. Then you've got your total revenues in B, your expenditures, and then on D you've got your surplus or deficit. And then you've got in G, I can't see the screen with my glasses on. And then you've got G as your ending fund balance, which you've seen for the 26-27 column on the previous slides. And then you've also seen your components of ending fund balance, which you've seen for column 3, which was 26-27. So if we look at in column 2, there's been some adjustments for the current year, and we're looking at an ending fund balance of 56. We're looking at column G2. We're looking at almost $6 million. That's just a little over $1 million better than what we were at second interim, and that's because during estimated actuals, we really go through and start looking at what we don't think we're gonna spend, and we start pulling some of that back. And again, most of that is from the textbook adoption that we pushed out to next year. So plus or minus. That does again include the tentative agreements that you're gonna see, because CSEA's is retro back to July 1 of the current year. So that is also reflected in there. And then if you go from G2 up to 3A, 26-27's beginning fund balance, you'll see that number carries forward. And you'll see our revenues and our expenditures. And again, you'll see down to G3, you'll see our ending fund balance. I'm I would really just kind of point out that all of those 3 next years have those tentative agreements in those. We have the textbook adoption rolling back in. We also have some increased expenses, we have our normal increased expenses like our insurance. We have our normal PERS increases, which actually we have an increase and then we have a decrease. So it's kind of a fluctuating one, which PERS doesn't usually do.
Please, guys, just a quick question, and please just allay my concerns, I
Nope.
guess, because I'm
Go for
just looking 3 years ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I see expenditures outweighing revenue.
So part of that is, so again, this is,
I'm assuming that's not a good thing.
it's an okay thing. So the reason is this is a combined, and I think next time maybe I'll give you a broken out one. So this is a combined summary of restricted and unrestricted. So if I was to break this out and give you just an unrestricted, you wouldn't see that. And that's because we're doing planned spend down of grants that we already have the revenue. And so we're spending those dollars down. So you're always gonna outspend your revenue because we already got the revenue ahead of time.
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of our one-time funds, a lot of our grants, the state grants, they give us the money ahead of time. So like our one-time discretionary block grant, we got the funds this year and we're spending it over the next 3 years.
Got it, thank you for that.
Yeah, so yeah, it isn't quite the way it looks. It's not, we're not deficit spending in the general fund. I actually did bring it with me. So yeah, it's not in the unrestricted at all. So it's all in the restricted funds. So we're good. If it was, I would definitely point that out for you. And I can do a summary for you guys and email it to you, so you can see it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think those are the kind of the biggest pieces. And then the commitments on row C, kind of along those same lines where we're keeping those same commitments that you've seen in the previous slides, and we're continuing to build them or to keep them growing, keep them going. You also see some school site carryover funds down below that. And then things you're used to seeing, the additional 1%, the 2% for cash flow, and then the unexpected needs. Those are all based on either percentages or enrollment numbers. And then again, leaving us in that very last very last row of 2.5, 2.7, and 2.7 is our unassigned fund balance. And then just a quick fiscal kind of takeaways. We do still have a very strong fund balance, our ending fund balance. We have very significant strategic commitments. We have some very conservative budgeting assumptions. Our multi-year, in our multi-year, we're very solvent. We have no deficit spending, which there are very few districts around that can say that at this point. It's very rare at this point. Most of our districts in our neighboring areas can't say that. We do have some expiring one-time funds, but on the horizon, we know there's more one-time funds coming, so we're okay with that too. The ones that we have those positions that we extended. Those are, even with these tentative agreements right now, we are still have those through 28-29. Nothing has changed in there. So we are still stable, and we are proactively looking at this on a regular basis. I know in ELT we're talking about it at least every other week. And so next steps would be to open our public hearing tonight, and then adoption on the 16th. Then the enacted budget, we'll work on cleaning up, adding in anything that comes out of there, bringing it back to you, and then we'll bring an audit actuals in September. So I'd like to give a super special shout out to everybody that's here tonight. Schools worked really hard at getting their budgets in and going through this process with us, so thank you guys so much. departments as well. I know that this was, I kind of had everybody meet with us, and that was kind of new for some folks, and everybody dug in really well and answered all our questions and redid things when we asked them to, and my team put in a lot of tireless, effortless days and nights and wee hours of the night, trying to get all these agreements in and making changes at the last minute, and so, I just wanna thank everybody who helped and participated in this. And then I think unless you guys have any questions, I ask that we open the public hearing.
Well, I just have a quick comment, again, I am concerned about this 10-year scenario, and the current declining enrollments, and I know we've talked about that in the past, but I'd love to see down the road sometime of just a best case scenario, worst case scenario,
Yeah.
projections of that, because I think that's something that we should long-term take a look at too.
Okay,
Thanks.
you bet.
Do you have anything else? Did you have something to
You
say?
wanna say something? Who, me?
Mhm.
Oh, no, your fingers
Oh,
in the
cause
butt.
I'm just like,
I'm just hovering.
that was a lot of information. It was a lot of work. So thank you to, I love your shout out page. Thank you to everyone who's involved because I can only imagine how much work went into that. That being said, this is the time for the public hearing on the 26-27 budget. So the public hearing is now open for the budget. Do we have any comments? All right, so hearing no comments, the public hearing for the 26-27 budget is closed.
Thanks, Kristen.
Okay, moving on to policy review.
Air pollution. Where that is.
So assuming
Weather.
everyone has had a chance to look at it. Does anybody have any comments, questions? Anything? It's
I'm
pretty
fine with
straightforward.
everything.
I don't-
Tracy.
Yeah, I would, I'm fine just approving, 8.1 in total, so okay just to do it.
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 8.1, the first reading of the red line of BP 5141.75, 5142, 7110, and 5141.7.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Fenske, a second by Board Member Falcom, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-0. Okay. God, it's the last page. It's very exciting. Okay, so our next meeting is, oh, it's not even listed here. Next Tuesday, 16th. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. I knew this, I remember. So unless anybody has any final comments.
I just wish all of our administrators out there are very happy, fun-filled, short break. You deserve it. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes, enjoy the break. And
Yeah, and this is their last meeting with us.
Oh, no,
It's
okay.
gonna look empty next time. So thank you for coming.
Board.
cardboard cutouts in the seats.
Happy summer.
I know. Did I miss something? Tracy was talking. Tracy has something that, did you want to?
I just have some clarification, so for the next board meeting, our agenda items are, the LCAP approval, the budget approval, and then school plans will be coming.
Yes.
School plans, mitigation agreement, I mean, there are
There's
regular
lots.
items in addition to those two, but
Okay.
it'll still be short.
And then maybe sometime, we can also have an opportunity to make some suggestions or some ideas as maybe what might be helpful for items to hear at our year to glance for next year.
Sure, yeah, I mean, we do have an item at the end of every budget meeting for future agenda items, so we can definitely hit that then. And then we'll publish the agenda tomorrow, so you'll see it all.
Is it appropriate to like state, well, down the road, I'd like to look at these things and these things during this future agenda items kind of thing?
Yeah, and
That's
then the board
potential.
president and I will get together and map out when we bring this back.
Okay, so if you have some ideas, we'll bring them with us to the meeting. Okay.
Okay, well then, that being said, have a great break. We'll miss you, but we won't miss you because we know you'll be having a great break. Okay, that being said, meeting is adjourned.
Well,
Well, what?
we gotta go back.
Oh, we are heading back into closed session for a short time, so
ride my bike. Got an ear infection, I'll probably ride my bike anyway.
Okay, we are reconvening after closed session. We completed the evaluation for our superintendent, and other than that, there's nothing to report out of closed session. So, meeting is adjourned, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, everybody. Good meeting. That is Tuesday.